Kings and queens.
Everybody, this is Tracy again, your host for the UCC Roundtable, and also the CEO of United Crowns Collection, our clothing brand, a clothing brand that helps us as a people, as a culture, to reclaim our narrative. Check us out at united-crowns.com. Today we got an exciting show for you. We have a great friend of mine, Mr. Jason Chambers. We're going to talk today about buying back the block. And that's been the hot topic, I can tell you, on a lot of social media platforms, IG, Facebook, Twitter. I mean, you name it. People are talking about buying properties, buying homes, buying rental properties, commercial properties. So that's what we're going to talk about today, talk about that as the importance for us as Black Americans to do that, or the Black culture to begin investing and making that a part of your portfolio. But without further ado, Jason, hey, just tell our viewers a little bit about yourself and what you kind of have to offer about this topic of buying back the block.
Well, first, man, I want to thank you for having me on today, man. It's an honor to be here. So Jason Chambers, retired military, retired pilot, started investing in real estate back in 2011. It's kind of snowballed since then. Things have gone really well. 43 years old, financially independent. And I feel really strongly it's important that we buy back the block. You know, we invest in ourselves, we invest in our communities, and take things back, and growing generational wealth. That's the most important part of this, is leaving a legacy for the next generation. I always tell people, what I'm doing right now is I want my grandkids eating off of this, and their grandkids after that, off of what I'm building. So thanks for having me on, and glad to share whatever I know.
All right. Hey, Jason, thank you, man. And, Jason's a little humble, but this guy's done a lot of work over the past couple of years in real estate, has been very successful. Buying homes, mostly in the Texas region, but across the nation as well, too. Has built a great network of people on his team that are doing some amazing things when it comes to real estate and taking it to the next level for our members of our Black communities. But Jason, many of our viewers may have purchased a home before, and many may have not. I will tell you, what would be the first thing if somebody has in their mind, just say buying a property, first and foremost, whether it be a family home, whether it be a rental property or an investment property, what's some of the first things our viewers need to sit down and go over first before they go to the bank and ask for that loan?
I think at a very basic level, you really have to understand, first off, what your buying power is. Your buying power is going to be based off of, credit. So there's a lot of basic things that you already kind of have to have lined up. And not to say that you have to have a lot of money to get started, and not even that you have to have the best credit score. It's just that'll just guarantee you the best rates. But so there's some basic stuff that you need to get knocked out while you're looking into purchasing your first property. So once you get all that basic stuff knocked out, the next thing that you would do is kind of get a better understanding of what your market is. And not from necessarily a retail standpoint, right? There's a big difference between retail buyers and, say, like wholesale buyers and investors like me. You got to understand the difference there. But first and foremost, though, is you got to get your ducks in a row. You got to make sure that you have the buying power so that you can set realistic goals and get that credit straight.
Okay. Well, let me ask you a question. Okay, now say, for instance, the credit straight, I have like 700 to 850 credit score. Everything's looking pretty good. What's some other things, like I know you talked about the market, but what's some other things that, people should really look at? Because you and I have talked about this, I mean, late nights, text messages all the time. But I know one of the key things you've always told me is about location. Can you kind of speak to that for a little bit about not just going out and just picking any particular property, but the location of that property and things like that?
Right. So that goes back to what I was saying before about the difference between, being a retail buyer and being an investor.
Mm-hmm.
I look at every real estate transaction as an investment, even my personal home, the house I'm sitting in right now. To me, I look at it from an investment standpoint. So I looked at areas where I saw growth. I looked at areas that may be underserved, where there might be some value in fixing up properties.
Mm-hmm.
Or areas like I live in El Paso, Texas. I live in West Texas. So
Yeah.
I know, for instance, that there's a shortage of housing for young professionals in and around downtown in the central area of El Paso.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll focus all my efforts there. So kind of understand where you can be an investor as opposed to just a retail buyer. Because, as a retail buyer, you're going to pay full price, and it doesn't really matter when you buy. You don't want to do it.
And one thing that I had a habit of, and as I was looking for rental properties, and I'm looking for that diamond. I don't look for the diamonds in the rough. And and Jason and I really talked about that a lot too. He has that eye to say, this property may not look the best. It may not, be something that I personally would want to make my forever home or something like that. But that could be that diamond in the rough that could actually bring in that rental income that people are looking for as they rent these rental properties, these fourplexes, duplexes, or single family homes out to other people. Can you talk about that for a little bit, Jason?
Yeah. So, as far as the rental market, that's what I was saying before, when you're kind of investigating where to go after, definitely understand that there has to be a strong rental market in that area. Mm. With any deal, I don't care if it's real estate, I don't care what it is really. I buy all kinds of stuff. I kind of dabble in non-traditional asset acquisition. It doesn't matter what you want; it has to be the right deal, mm-hmm. right? And that's a problem I see sometimes when people go out and buy their first property, or like, we were both in the military.
Yeah.
So every time somebody goes to a new place, what do? They buy their next forever home, right?
Yeah. Hey, absolutely.
They go to sell it and they lose out. So it doesn't have to be the property that you love, the perfect house. It has to be the right property, because you make your money when you buy, right?
Absolutely.
So we always get emotionally attached to what we want to have right now, and then we get upset when we exit that thing and we lose money on it, right? So always think about the exit strategy. Always think about the right property as opposed to the one you absolutely want.
And I think you brought up a very good point, especially with our listeners who are people viewing right now that are active duty military, that are moving some people moving every 2 years, some people moving every 5 to 6 years. But like you say, they're buying forever homes. But, that is a perfect opportunity, I believe, especially for our active duty military, where they're pretty much giving you monies to purchase these rental properties that you can keep and start to build this generational wealth, or be financially independent by the time you're 20 years, 25 years, or whatever years are up that you decide to serve. It puts that nest egg there if you buy the right properties, just like you were saying.
Exactly. Yeah. So, speaking from the military standpoint, yeah, you're actually getting into properties for free or for next to nothing. And how you do that is by using tools like VA loans. We talked about this a lot too. Mm-hmm. A lot of people don't know that you can buy up to a 4-unit property with a VA loan, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
At that point, it doesn't even necessarily have to be the best deal. It just has to be a deal that pays for itself. Yeah. Guess how much money you put into that deal? $0.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So instead of going out and taking that VA loan and buying that next forever home, you can go, maybe downsize. Actually, so some people that are watching right now, they're probably living in an apartment building right now, right? Yep. Probably living in an apartment somewhere. You can do that exact same thing with VA loans, except you'll own the property.
Absolutely.
Right? And there are some things you'll have to navigate, like property management. You can decide whether or not you want to manage your own properties. I don't do that anymore. That's not my thing. I'd rather hire an expert to do that. Mm-hmm. But if you buy that property through VA or FHA, non-conventional means, and the property covers for its own expenses, that's free money.
Yeah, absolutely. And just imagine, myself, I changed duty stations or PCS 13 times while I was in the military. And just imagine, like, I didn't do that. So this is advice I'm telling you guys. If you're in the military, you're active duty right now, really take a listen to this and look at it, either now that you're at your duty station or if you're planning on going to your next one, because I couldn't imagine, because I bought 2 forever homes. So I made that mistake as well, too, and sold those. Luckily, we made something off of it. But, but just imagine if I'd have had 13 rental properties from each one of those duty locations, how much residual income and rental income, I should say, would be coming in monthly just by those simple properties, along with my retirement and things like that. So, people have a prime opportunity who are in the United States military to do that. And I know, Jason, the VA loans, or we had talked about this, where there used to be a cap for the VA loans of what you could do. Didn't that change at the first of the year or something like that?
Yeah. So around the first of the year, so there's technically no more cap on VA loan. There is technically a cap on how much you can get, but so if you were in this, and the reason why they changed the rules is that, so we have military folks that live in high dollar areas. You might be assigned to someplace like in New York or LA.
Yep.
Cost of living and all stuff is really high. So what this did is it opened up the doors for you to be able to buy properties in those areas. Now, mind you, again, this doesn't apply if you want to go buy your forever home, you want to go buy this $2 million house down in New York City or something like that.
Yeah.
That doesn't pay for itself. This is not for that. I wouldn't advise you doing that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's where kind of the cap will come into play, because the bank is going to look at the numbers and the bank's not going to allow it anyway.
Yeah.
But if you go into one of those high dollar areas as of January 1st and you find, a $2 million fourplex.
Yeah.
And 3 of those units are already generating income that cover the cost of the loan on that property. Mm-hmm. Guess what? You go into a $2 million property, no money down. And that's a enormously beneficial tool to you.
Absolutely. I mean, that's huge. That I don't think, well, I don't know, but I can tell you from my experience and just being in the military for 25 years, a lot of people don't think like that they're sitting not only on $1 million pension once they do 20, but they also could get these properties for, almost zero down, every time they PCS. So that's just something for our listeners, especially our active duty, to think about. Now, Jason, I know we've talked about, going to get that property, but you kind of mentioned something as well of property management, because I'm going to tell you, now I can fix the little simple stuff in the home, like the sink leaking, toilet messed up, changing a door out. But when you're dealing with tenants, that could be a whole nother ball game. Can you talk a little bit about the property management as far as the fixing of things, and also dealing with some of those tenants who don't really take care of your properties like they should?
So 2 things. So number 1, I'm a big advocate for hiring property management. So I was a property manager. I bought my first apartment building maybe 4 or 5 years ago. And I thought, I can handle that. I can fix sinks. I can do all the basic stuff. But it's the hassle of getting a phone call at 1 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday night. You got to go, fix some leak somewhere, or you got to deal with a bad tenant. Like I've inherited some not so great tenants over the years. Yeah. And I realized very quickly that it's worth the investment of finding good property management, right? Okay. All with that good property management also comes, rental criteria. So that's another thing that I had to develop along with my property manager, is I have certain criteria based on the level of property that decides whether or not I'll even rent to somebody. Yeah. So choosing the right tenant is part of it. But as far as maintenance and all that is concerned, you got to work that into your numbers. If you're looking at a property and you're looking at property management, in my area over here in West Texas, I think kind of applies to most of Texas, but it changes once you go out to the West Coast and the East Coast. Mm-hmm. You should factor in, 10 to 12% of your monthly income is going to go to property management. Right? Okay. So I'm paying 8.5%. But I've got a really good relationship with my property manager. But I worked that into my numbers. That 8.5% makes me so much more, and it allows me more time to not have to think about that property on a day-to-day basis. So I'm a huge advocate. If you're going to buy a property, get a property management.
Okay. What about because anytime you're dealing with tenants, anytime that people are coming to the home and you have those contracts, what about some of the legal ramifications, or even like you always talk about the numbers, what about an accountant as well too? So some of those things, because taxes is going to play a thing and the legalities are going to play a role. Can you speak to those two things?
Yeah. So that's another thing I kind of got started late on was the accounting portion of it. So I went, and we've been doing our own taxes for a while. So early on, that's okay. That's all right. You may not be maximizing the tax benefit if you're doing your own taxes. But I would definitely look into hiring, a bookkeeper or an accountant just to keep your stuff straight, on a monthly basis, a quarterly basis, and especially when it comes down to time to do your taxes.
Yeah.
Tax laws have changed a lot over the last couple of years, and there's huge tax benefit for property owners and landlords. If you don't have, an accountant that is in tune with those incentives, then you won't be able to maximize it. So going back to what I was saying before, doing my own taxes, we hired an accountant. She went back 3 years, and she found $15,000 and I left on the table.
Wow.
So
yeah,
you want that's part of doing business is accounting, and hire a professional. And as far as the legal aspect of it, you do need to understand what your rights are as a landlord, what your tenants' rights are. A lot of that is written into lease agreements and the contracts and such, but you got to be aware of what's going on. So I don't have like an attorney on a retainer. I have 2 attorneys that I work with, and I use them on a case-by-case basis. And luckily, knock on wood, I haven't had to do any evictions or anything. But when I have come close to that, or when questions have come up, I do have relationships with people in the legal industry that I can tap into to get my questions answered.
Okay. All right, cool. Thanks for that information, because that's something I know well, whether you're doing rental properties, whether you're doing a business or anything, having an accountant, having that legal advice that you can go to is always definitely important to have and be able to lean on in those times that you need them. Another piece, I know we talked about the active duty military or military members maybe retired to have the VA loans, which is good. Can you kind of speak to our viewers who would have to use alternate means of financing? What are some of the programs, some of the things that are out there that they can tap into to purchase that first property?
You're talking about outside of VA loans?
Yes.
So you have FHA, which is another really good program. VA is no money down. FHA, I think, is either 3 or 3.5% down on the property. USDA offers other similar programs based on where your area is. There's agricultural loans in rural areas. But so if you don't have a VA entitlement, the next best thing is FHA, which is only 3.5%. The rules are generally the same. VA, FHA, you purchase a property using one of those programs, you're required to live in that property for a year.
Okay.
It's not a one-time thing either. You can reuse these loans time and time again.
Yeah.
And essentially how it works, for those that don't understand, so VA and FHA loans are backed by the government. You don't actually get a VA loan per se or FHA loan per se. You go through traditional means, regular bank, you get the loan through the bank, and that loan is backed by the VA or FHA.
Yeah. Just in case you default on the loan or what have you, banks or lenders are more apt to give it to you because that loan is backed just in case you default on that loan.
Exactly. One thing that you do need to consider when you're using FHA or VA loan is that there is a funding fee associated with this. It's not free per se.
Yep.
It's generally rolled up into the loan. It's going to be a certain percentage of whatever the loan is, and then you have to work that into your numbers as well as a funding fee. Then also in the case of FHA, if you are, I believe, above 80% loan to value, then you'll have to pay points on the loan. So PMI is essentially what it is, which is mortgage insurance. And so that's another thing you want to consider. Once you get that loan balance below 80% of the value of the property, then that goes away. With VA, there is no PMI.
Okay. Now, going out and buying that first property, and I know people get excited. There's a couple of ways you can go about finding that property. One way to find that property is through a realtor. And, I know we have some realtors that are probably listening. That is absolutely one way you can do it, and reach out to those folks who have the databases and things like that. But for those who don't want to take it on themselves, Jason, is there any way or anything they can do to go out themselves and say, find that property and kind of cut out the middleman, if you will, while searching for their first property?
Yeah, so that, the network that you have is everything. So nothing really happens in a vacuum in real estate. Real estate is all about relationships.
Mm-hmm.
First and foremost, being in real estate is all about solving problems, right?
Yeah.
You want to find good deals on properties, you got to have the network, and you got to put deals in front of you where you're able to go in and solve people's problems.
Mm-hmm.
You can pay a realtor. I've got some realtors on my team too that help me out when it comes to like checking out values on properties and such. But you got to realize that they're in business of selling properties. They're in business of getting a fee and getting a commission. Make sure that if you do align yourself with a realtor, you align yourself with somebody that understands from an investor standpoint how properties should be bought and sold. But as far as going out on your own to find properties, it's all about the network that you have.
Yeah.
So personally, I started out going to local real estate investor meetings.
Mm-hmm.
They're in every area in the country. You can find them on Facebook. You can find them on Bigger Pockets, which we'll talk about maybe a little bit later.
Okay.
But you can go in there. You can find out who real estate investors that are getting together in your area, and just go hang out with them. Find out what the market's doing. Find out where the deals are, and over time, as you build those relationships, those deals will come to you. In my case, we had a couple groups in my area that were good groups. They just didn't necessarily satisfy my needs as in my criteria as an investor. So I started my own.
Okay.
So I started up Southwest Real Estate Collaborative with some guys in the next town over in Las Cruces.
Okay.
And so we're having meetings. So now guess what? Now I've created a funnel for myself. Now all those deals that would normally filter through the group, it's my group. They filter through me now. I pick off the ones that I want. So it's the network.
Yeah.
But you got to dedicate some time to building that network and getting involved and putting it out there that you want to do these things.
Okay. So, and you talked about Bigger Pockets, and I know what that is, but can you tell our viewers what that does and how that could help them in learning more about real estate, finding properties, and building that network that you're talking about right now?
Yeah. So Bigger Pockets. So in terms of education and building a network, that's one of the places where I started.
And that's online, right?
Yeah, it's a website. So they have a website and a forum, huge podcast. I think they're up to like 400 something episodes on their podcast.
Mm-hmm.
So that's like a one-stop shop for education for real estate, for networking. It's essentially social media for real estate investors, really what it comes down to. It starts at a very basic level with the podcast, and it goes into really very high-level concepts. The forum is a place to go and engage with other investors. It's a place to actually go in by state, by city, and find other investors in your area. So Bigger Pockets is a great resource to go in and not only learn about real estate, but also to engage with other people.
Okay. Now, and when you talk about it, and you've mentioned several times about the networking and purchasing, we both know that you don't necessarily have to go out just your single self, me, Tracy Washington, going out buying a property just by myself. You definitely could go in with other investors as well too. So say for instance, you have 3 or 4 friends and it's a apartment building or fourplex or what have you. You all can chip in with some of the down payments and things like that. Can you kind of speak to the benefit of that, Jason? 'Cause I know there's a lot of people who may not have that may not have the startup capital to do it, but pooled together with a couple of them, they may be able to do this. Can you speak to that?
Yeah. So actually, I'll give you an example. We're working on a couple of deals right now. So a buddy of mine owns a lounge out here. Another buddy of mine is a real estate developer. So we're kind of putting together, those 3 aspects. So a buddy of mine that owns a lounge, he understands the hospitality business, bars and restaurants and such. Another buddy that knows how to build out properties, and then my knowledge in acquiring and selling real estate.
Mm-hmm.
So the 3 of us together, number one, we're pooling our knowledge, but we're also pooling our funding and our money, our resources.
Yeah.
So through my buddy that's a developer, he's got a really good relationship with the bank. Which I just did a refinance with. So now we've got resources and knowledge put together to go into a deal. We're looking at doing development deals. And we also have a bank that's going to back it all. What that ends up doing is that minimizes the amount of money you actually have to come to the table with. To kind of put that in perspective, we're looking at a deal right now here in El Paso. It's a commercial property that we're looking at putting a beer garden into, right?
Mm-hmm.
All in all, I think we can be all in on this property, and these numbers are relative. It might be different in your area. Don't let the numbers scare you. We can be all in on this property, completely built out, leased, and ready to go for about $500,000. My acquisition cost on that is going to be about 250, 275, right? Build out is going to be about 200. We expect the whole thing is going to be about 5 once it's all said and done with contingencies. We've already spoken to the bank. The bank is like, look, we'll give you 70% of whatever it's going to cost to acquire and fix up that property. We look at 500,000. So that's about 150 grand that we got to come up with between the three partners just to make this thing happen. And guess what? With the idea being that at the end of it, once it's all said and done, once the business is operating, we're going to refinance with the same bank that gave us the initial loan. Hopefully we force the value of that property and we take all our cash back out. So how much money do we actually spend? Nothing. You know? And we have a profitable business, and we also have ownership of the property, which is another key part of it, which is why I want to get involved, because I want ownership.
Okay. And you know, Jason, and I know you gave like numbers where some of our people watching may say 500,000, that's a lot, or 100,000 to come up with, but that's a scaled out business or deal that you have the backing and the skills and all that, the other people that had the capital to do it. But you could scale those numbers down for like, say, a duplex or a fourplex, and you may be only bringing like, say, maybe 1,000 or whatever the numbers may add up to be in your area. So you could just take those same numbers and equate them all the way back down and start getting that first property. So you don't have to have those astronomical amounts of money to get into your first property and start your real estate portfolio.
Yeah, no, it's true. There's a lot of resources out there for cash. Again, my network is pretty strong, so we're able to either raise capital if we don't need it, or we know where to put our assets to make money. But yeah, you can bring it down to a very basic level, smaller properties. Everybody knows somebody that's investing somewhere.
That's right.
We should be investing in one another anyway. It's actually surprisingly easy to raise money if you have a good deal. Another way that you can get into real estate without actually having to come up with any money at all is wholesaling. Where you're actually getting. So you find properties, maybe distressed properties that have a lot of value, and then negotiate a good deal on and get it under contract and take that contract and just assign it to another investor. You've made money out of nothing. That's $0. That's just sweat equity in going in and researching the property, negotiating it for a good price, and then taking and assigning it to somebody else. So there's all kinds of ways to enter into the real estate market that don't necessarily require a lot of cash. And if it does require cash, there's so much money out there. Traditional banks, hard money lenders, private lenders that'll give you cash. They want to put their money. I get calls all the time from lenders, from investors. Jason, I need some deals. I need deals. There's money out there. If you have a good deal, people will give you money. It is insane.
Okay. Can you talk briefly about opportunity zones? I don't know how many people out there know about opportunity zones and what they are and what they can do. Can you speak to that real quickly?
So opportunity zones is something I've had my eye on for a little while. I think October 2017, with the new tax laws that came out, it incorporated the idea of opportunity zones. They're much like other incentive areas that you might find in your city. They're generally in larger cities, like Detroit has a huge opportunity zone, LA has, New York. The idea being is they want investment in areas where you can develop, right?
Yep.
And the incentive is tax abatement, right? So you're either delaying the taxes that you're going to pay on the profits, or you can defer taxes indefinitely with opportunity zones. Opportunity zones, you can't invest directly. You have to do it through an opportunity fund. I'm actually researching that right now. Discussing this with a company out of California. It's actually surprisingly easy to set up an opportunity fund. So you have to do it through a fund, but any investment that happens through this fund, and there's timelines, I think it's 5, 10, and 15 years. If you leave your investment in for 5 years, you'll only pay a certain amount of taxes on when you cash out. 10 years is another higher rate. At 15 years, you can defer indefinitely if you want to. Huge tax incentive, especially when, because what we're talking about here, let's be honest, is gentrification, right? Opportunity zones going in gentrified areas, right? People feel a certain way about that, and understandably so. But it's one of those things my homeboy Prince asked me. He's like, gentrification is inevitable, man. What part of that equation are you going to be on? opportunity zones is one of those ways where we can invest in the areas that generally we already live in.
Yep.
Opportunity zones happen in inner cities.
And that's why I brought it up, because even at the title of the show, we talked about, it's about buying back the block, and everybody talks about that, but opportunity zones is one way to do that. Plus the financial benefits of that are just outstanding,
Yeah.
But just knowing about it, like you said, doing the research, starting the fund, and actually executing that, it's some work that needs to be done to do that. But I think that, either when we talk about opportunity zones or buying other properties within our own communities is huge.
Yeah.
And that's something that we need to do, that we had. And there's a lot of talk about Black Wall Streets and, having our own this and own that. But it starts with owning the property as well, too. It's good to have businesses there, but if the businesses, the buildings that they operate out of, or the homes that people are living in, are not owned by the people either who live there or who look like them, it's kind of defeating the purpose.
Right.
So can you kind of speak to your opinion about that, Jay? Just kind of your thoughts on buying back the block, how it should happen, and some viable ways to do it.
Yeah. So, going back to what I was talking before about this property, we're looking at doing this beer garden thing. So this is a historic property downtown. We don't own anything downtown here.
Yep.
We don't own a lot of stuff, period. But this is in an incentive area. So my biggest thing, like I said before, is ownership. It's cool that we can put a business in it, and I think that business will be very profitable.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to own that building. I want to own that property.
Absolutely.
Right? Because what you're doing with the property, with the ownership, is that once you, if it's a residential property, it's fixing it up. It's about putting, new kitchens and bathrooms and new roofs and all that other stuff to force the value, the equity up.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing on the commercial side. When you get a property and, you build it out and put a profitable business in it, well, now you dramatically increase the value of that property, and then you have ownership.
Yes.
Then that's, at the end of the day, that's really what matters, is the ownership of the property, because what you do with the equity that you force in these properties is you take that equity and then you go get the next one and the next one and the next one, and that's a whole nother conversation we can have about how to use equity to purchase more properties.
Absolutely.
That's where the ownership comes in. The ownership is what creates the snowball effect that totally takes you off into, who knows what, the opportunities are endless when you have ownership.
Okay. In the beginning, you said a phrase that really resonates with me. We talked about it a lot, and your shirt actually says it: generational wealth. Real estate, to me, is one of the prime ways that we can pass tangible, lucrative streams of income to our children, our children's children, and you just name it on down the line. Okay. That would start that generational wealth, so they are not starting from ground zero. Like, I can tell you, most of us, or myself, speaking for myself, had to, can you talk about how real estate can definitely help start to build that generational wealth and getting our children involved in the process as well, too?
Yeah, so that's huge for me. I got 3 little boys, and we talked about this before, man, is that, I had to learn this the hard way. Like, my parents weren't doing this stuff. My parents were busy surviving, not so much living,
Mm-hmm.
So
hey, a lot of them were, doing the best they could.
Yeah, exactly, right? So I'm luckily, man, or it's a blessing to be part of the first generation in my family where we're living, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're making sense. Part of that is normalizing investments, normalizing that mindset, normalizing risk mitigation in my kids. My oldest son is 8, my youngest is 3 now. And to them, it's normal to have properties. It's normal to go out and look at deals. It's normal for them to even think about how to go about acquiring deals, even at such a young age. So part of it is a mindset, making that mindset normal early on. And then also, the financial benefit of it. If anything were to happen to me and my wife, all that stuff is for them now, right? Yeah. We're continuing to snowball this stuff. It's eventually going to get to the point where, it's all self-sustaining as it is. But whether they want to or not, the system is already set for them to benefit off of it, right? I would like for them to continue it, obviously, but if they don't want to, guess what? Everything is already set in place, and they can take advantage. If you look at, folks that have had wealth over generations, you talk to them, you quickly realize that normal kind of part of that is in their mindset. Like, it's almost expected that that's how they're supposed to be.
Yes.
Right. We need to get to that point. And we do it by including our children in these investments and everything that we do. Like, that's something we should definitely be talking to our kids about early on.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And Jason, and I'll tell y'all who's listening, Jason and I have talked about this over and over again. I know his sons are very involved with him in the process. My daughter is very involved with me as I build the Roundtable and build United Crowns Collection and the United Crowns Foundation. And she has a line in that, and is also starting her own business with a lip gloss business. But that is in her mindset now of, thinking about these things. Not that it's okay to strive and, want to do other things, but I'm a firm believer in entrepreneurship and ownership. And, if people want to go out and get jobs, that's great. That's great. But I want to make it the norm that I can be the CEO, I can be the president of this and that, and own and receive 90% of the profit versus 20% of the profit, or less than that even sometimes, of all your hard work. And Jason and I know we agree on that. And I think, man, that's one of the movements as well too, whether it be real estate, whether it be business, whether it be whatever, including our children, to normalize it, that this is normal for us. I don't understand how everybody else is talking about anything else or doing things except for that. And then, like you say, even if they grow up and don't want to do it, at least they know how to do it, and the platform is there for them to do it. And, like my daughter says, well, Dad, I'm going to be an artist. Hey, baby, go be the greatest artist. But when you get to selling your paintings and things, I want you to own that gallery that's selling them those paintings. Exactly. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. That's I think that's key to it, man. Making it normal. See, I think you hit the nail on the head. You or we are doing these things, number one, to make it normal for them, obviously, but also them to be able to go out and follow their passion.
Absolutely.
To be able to go out and do the things that they want to do, as opposed to being tied down to what they have to do to get by. I think that when you are busy surviving, that stifles creativity. It stifles passion. It stifles potential. You know what I mean? So if you give these kids a platform that they can work off of, the foundation that they can work off of, and be creative and work towards their passion, and still set a foundation of, in this case, we're talking about investing in real estate, then they can go off and do whatever they want to do, knowing that they're always going to be taken care of because they already have the fundamentals there.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I totally concur with everything that you're saying. But, Jason, this has been a great conversation that we've had today. But we are going to do a follow-up IG Live on Wednesday. The time will be coming out that we're going to be able to hold that. So you'll be able to speak with Jason and ask those questions that you may have formulated while you have been watching the show, and maybe you're buying your first property, thinking about it, or I got 10 properties, but want to do something better because it's not working out. So Jason will be able to help answer some of those questions. And if we don't know the answers to your questions, we'll definitely find out and be able to get back to some of the viewers IG Live as well too, through your IG tag or what have you. But before we close out, Jason, if any of our viewers want to get a hold of you, how would they reach out if they have questions, need some mentorship or something? How would they reach out to you?
Well, I'm on social media. I need to get better at it. I'm on Facebook.
You do. Yeah, you do.
I got to get better at social media stuff, man. I came out of the intelligence community when I was in the Army, so I'm always secretive of stuff.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
It's hard to break.
Yeah,
which is not good business-wise. So I need to get better at the at social media. But anyway, no, you can find me on Facebook. You can find me through Tracy Washington. You can make the connection. Yep. My email, if you guys want to send me an email, ask me some questions, jc@infinitefocus.com. And the word focus is spelled with a PH as opposed to an F. jc@infinitefocus.com. You can reach me there. And then please get on Wednesday with any questions. I'll be more than happy to answer. And yes, that's where you can find me.
All right, brother. Hey, man, I appreciate you taking out your time. I know you're very busy down in El Paso with all the different projects that you're working on, and with you're a family man with the 3 boys, so I know that brings a whole nother challenge sometimes within itself too. But I appreciate you taking time to talk about real estate and the importance in our Black communities to purchase real estate, whether it be by themselves personally, with family, or with friends or colleagues together, to start to build that generational wealth. So this has been the show today for the UCC Roundtable. If you'd like to get a hold of me, Tracy Washington, you can reach me at info@united-crowns.com, or my Gmail account is Tracy, TRACY.P.Washington@gmail.com. Hey, thank y'all for tuning in. I really appreciate it, and we'll see y'all next time on the UCC Roundtable.